property of her husband and his to be discarded of. How she was told that how could you kick out such an honorable man? And how her own children would have problems getting a shidduch, finding a mate, or getting married in Israel if she doesn't stop making trouble, causing trouble. And how she was a disgrace to women, to all women. She told me, if you don't believe in the rabbinate, don't let them marry you. In my foxhole, she found her atheism.
I'm very interested, great story, Eyal. I'm very interested in that artist's impression of his ass in plaster. You know, it's no wonder why Eyal doesn't want any art for his wedding. A few more quotes. Here's a special one for the last storyteller. It's by Lyndon B. Johnson, and he said, I learned the only two things necessary to keep one's wife happy. First, let her think she's having her own way. Second, let her have it. And then one for me, I guess. An ideal wife is one who remains faithful to you but tries to be just as charming as if she weren't. Yeah, that's me charming. Okay, our next storyteller, our third storyteller of the evening, is Joanne Solomon, no relation to Eyal Solomon. Joanne is a writer and performer, and she first performed her story at Luna Lounge in 1994. And then was in the off-Broadway show De La Guardia for 7 years. Let's have a big hand for Joanne Solomon.
Hello. That's not to be confused with the airport show, De La Guardia. I fell off my bike last week, so I'm going to use these notes as a crutch. So I apologize to everybody. In our last classic family photo, the 6 Solomon siblings lined up in order of height. And it occurred to me that we weren't only lined up in order of height, but that we were lined up in order of sanity. My oldest sister, who reigned at the top for many years, got married right out of college, made some sort of conventionally successful choices, had 2 kids, and then over time and 2 divorces, she got outgrown by all of us. And at our last family wedding, she took the last place. And it was emphasized because taking the picture was her racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, gun-toting boyfriend. And we were there to celebrate my brother's gay wedding. My brother and his boyfriend had been together for 17 years, and when New York recognized out-of-state gay marriage 2 years ago, they decided to go to Massachusetts and get married. And 17 years is about the time it takes for a father of a gay son to process that and go through the guilt and the shame and the confusion, and then come out on the other side with, hey, marriage isn't about you, it's about the parents. We want to throw a party. So my father gathered all of his friends and threw my brother and his boyfriend a huge wedding in Massachusetts 2 years ago. The wedding was incredible. I'm sorry, here's one of those moments. I did break, I don't want you to feel sorry for me, but I did break 2 bones in my face last week, so, so here we are. These guys, my brother and his husband, are my biggest champions in life. I moved here in '93, right after my mother died, to Park Slope, and I don't think there's more of a soft landing for a young 21-year-old grieving girl than a sea of gay men who are there with baked goods and hair products and wake you up with herbal tea every morning. I couldn't have gotten through those years without those 2 boys and their friends. It was also the year that I went through my own coming out process of a sister of a gay man. I saw two men kiss for the first time. I saw them fall in love. I understood the profound pain and journey of the coming out process. I was also there to endure the travesty of a young couple discovering baby talk. It turns out gay baby talk is still baby talk, and living with two baby talking roommates still sucks in any situation. But these two boys have been not only my saviors, but they've broadened my world. I've spent 3 summers living in a gay trailer park in Provincetown, combing the lesbian beaches, barking for my brother's one-man show about our dead mother. Come see an incredibly strong performance about my passed away mother, a strong woman portrayed by my gay brother. I have gone to the Edinburgh Festival. I've gone to India for a human rights festival with my brother. I recently found myself humming the Titanic theme on the bow of a gay Atlantis cruise. 3,000 gay men and 3 women. We were like exotic pets. And I'm walking up to the bow, humming the theme to the Titanic, like near, far, humming it, when I come across a few duos and some trios engaged in some somewhat expressive PDA. And my first reaction wasn't like, oh, they're doing something wrong, but, oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I've become very accustomed to a gay environment. And somewhere over the last 15 years, I decided that if my brother and his husband or his boyfriend weren't allowed to get married, then I wasn't going to get married either. I don't know when that happened, but when I hit 35, that's where I was. And then I got an email from my father saying, in a month, we're throwing your brother a wedding. And it totally threw my game. I mean, they hadn't checked with me. They didn't ask me if they should marry each other. And I sort of didn't know what to do. I was sitting in my apartment reading the email, and I was looking at my grandfather's ukulele on the wall. And I was like, wait a second, should I be getting married? I slowly absorbed the fact that really their love and their marriage had nothing to do with me, and embarked on helping them with the wedding plans. And for someone who had never planned her own wedding, I certainly had a lot of opinions. I wanted them to wear a certain suit. I wanted to pick out the flowers. At some point, my brother exploded in Men's Warehouse and was like, Joanne, when you pick out your wedding dress, I'll be there telling you what type of wedding dress to wear, so back off. All the family heads to Massachusetts, and it's a beautiful wedding that overlooks a pond, and they broke the glass, and they signed a handcrafted ketubah. My brother read a poem to Will called I Did Already, which basically stated that anything we're promising here today, we've been promising and re-promising each other for the last 17 years. There was not a dry eye in the house when he read that poem. And then came time for the toasts, the tenor of which were, thank you, Will, you seem to have the gay gene of style and success that has eluded our son Jeffrey, the disheveled playwright. But thank you for coming into our lives. And Jews, who doesn't love a doctor in the family? Will was a surgeon, so that certainly made it easier for my father and his friends to absorb. The toasts were heartwarming, not so much because of the content, but because my father addressed my brother-in-law as his son-in-law and as my brother's husband instead of my brother's buddy, which he had been doing for 17 years. He had always turned to me at family functions and Joanne, how's your boyfriend? And I'd say, fine. And he'd say, and Jeffrey, how's your buddy? And my brother would say, fine. It was like any other wedding, any other Jewish wedding, I guess, except the caterer was high as a kite and served sushi for dessert. The rabbi brought her girlfriend Julie and made out with her all over the property of my aunt and uncle's house. And my sister's boyfriend pretty much offended everyone, the gays, the Jews. At one point, he slapped my brother's best friend, who's Dominican, Her name's Christina. He slapped her on the ass and said, "Come on, you crazy African, let's boogie." My brother and Will wept as they looked into each other's eyes. And if I have to be really honest with myself, I think not only have I not gotten married because of my ethical reasons, but I sort of had a very difficult time imagining a wedding without my mother there. But seeing my father look at these two men in love, and seeing him break out his 70s stock dance moves with a smile on his face wider than a house, I thought, you know, maybe I need to rethink my ideas about marriage. Oh, those boys look so sweet standing there in their rented three-piece Men's Warehouse tuxes. And they were smiling and so happy. And we're getting in line, in that height line, and Will and Jeff are back to back, and everyone's laughing because we can't decide who's taller. And it's so fitting that they take the top of the line, because these guys have been they have been the rock of our family. They are so generous, and everyone wants Uncle Jeff and Uncle Will around. They're so much fun, and they bring so much light to our lives. And it's only fitting that we're all acknowledging it and putting it up on our mantle and showing everyone how much we believe in them. Thank you.
What Joanne didn't tell you was after the accident, I ran to the hospital and I said, "You better be able to tell the story." My favorite line from the story was, "I've never been married, but I have a lot of opinions." Okay, so our next storyteller is me. So the first thing my father said to me when I got engaged 2 months ago was, "Are you doing this now because the gays are getting married?" I'm not gay. You actually met my fiance earlier this evening as a storyteller. Okay. But when we got engaged, New York had just passed the same-sex marriage bill, and my father wanted to stick it to me for being secular, for being liberal, for being everything that he's not. He's a super orthodox, kosher-eating, settler-supporting, Rush Limbaugh-listening dentist from Brooklyn. Still, you'd think he'd be happy for me. His daughter, 41 years old, getting married for the first time. To a Jew, no less. I have to tell you, it was touch and go for a while there. But my father, he was thinking about himself, about how my wedding would affect him. Would he be embarrassed in front of his family and friends? Because the second thing he said to me was, "Are you going to have a Reform woman, lesbian rabbi marry you?" As if there's another kind of lesbian that's not a woman. The truth is, I wish I could have a Reform woman lesbian marry me, but I don't know any. And actually, if I really wanted to piss him off, I would be a Reform woman lesbian rabbi. But I can't choose my sexual orientation any more than I could choose to be interested enough in Judaism to become a rabbi of any denomination. Yeah, my family is Orthodox. I was raised Orthodox, and I hopped off the mitzvah train a few years ago. But in these last 15 years, my family and I, we've worked out this compromise when we're together. Basically, here's how it works. I do everything their way, and that's it. Because they have religious restrictions and I don't. And that's how they would expect me to have a wedding. You know, their way, so they could come. What? No, of course they can't come unless it's according to their specifications. Silly. There's only one problem. My boyfriend, my fiance, he's not that into religion. He actually only likes, ritual when it has a personal meaning. How was I ever going to get all these people together for a wedding? I decided I would ask my brother to perform the ceremony. My younger brother, he's a black hat rabbi. He and his wife send the girls to cheder, which is named after the shtetl school, Poland, circa 1850. they learn Yiddish, and they wear uniforms. They wear skirts down to their knees. They wear sleeves that covers their, their wrists and their elbows, and they're always like tugging at my outfit, pulling at me, fixing it. They're like, Amy, you're not sneeze enough. No matter how modest I try to be, I always forget. I always can't remember the rules. But if my younger brother would perform my wedding, then it would be kosher enough for everyone. It would be good enough for my father and his family. And it would be good enough for my fiancé because, it's my brother. He can't say no to my brother. But my brother said no to me. He said, Amy, I can't perform, I don't perform secular weddings. And I'm like, why not? You and I both know that if both people are halachically Jewish, even if they're anti-religious, a rabbi can perform their wedding, a rabbi should perform their wedding. So my brother explained to me that he didn't want to set a precedent. Like, if he did my wedding, there'd be a flood of secular couples beating down his door for a black hat rabbi to do their wedding. Whatever. But, I had to break it to the news to my father, so I said to my father and stepmother, I don't think there's going to be an Orthodox rabbi at my wedding. So my stepmother grabbed my hands and she said, oh, Amy, don't worry. We once went to a wedding with a conservative rabbi, and we just waited in the bathroom the whole time. Okay, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. Half the guests crowd in the facilities during the most important part of the ceremony. I asked her, would they come out for the food? She said, yeah, if it's got kosher, they will. Okay, I know you're sitting here listening to me, thinking about my religious family on the one hand and my secular fiancé on the other, what they want, what everybody else wants, and I know you're probably asking yourself, what do I want? I'm 41 years old. I should know by now. But the problem with being around religious people your whole life is they're always telling you what you should do, what you should want, what you should have, and even after you leave them, you don't really know the answer anymore. I mean, what do I want? Do I want a ceremony? Do I want a religious ceremony? Do I want a rabbi? Do I want a chuppah? Do I want a bedekah? Do I want a ketubin? Do I want a smorgasbord? Do I want a bridesmaid? Do I want a shower? Do I want a caterer? Do I want a... Here's what I want. I want everyone to be happy. Okay, that was a joke. I just want everyone to come. So I've decided I'm going to have a glatt kosher wedding. And I will have, a Jewish ceremony, and I won't have a rabbi, I won't have an Orthodox, Reform, or conservative rabbi, just so there won't be any problems. And it turns out in the end, you don't need a rabbi doing one of these things. After all, I can have a friend perform the ceremony. And I'm just not going to invite my father's family. I don't need half the guests huddled in the bathroom the whole time. So I said to my father, Dad, why don't we just have a separate party for your family? Hey, why don't we just have a Sheva Brachot? That's one of the 7 parties that you have after the wedding where they bless the bride and groom. I figured I'd throw my father a bone. I could have the party that I wanted and he'd have the party that he wanted. Everyone's sort of happy. So last week my father called and he said to me, Amy, I can't throw you a Sheva Brachot because your wedding is not religious, and it would be a wasted blessing, a bracha levatala, is what he said. A wasted blessing. As if there was only a finite number of blessings in the world, and he couldn't, the one for me would be in vain. We went at it then for a while. I told him that after all I'd done for him, I was trying to have a Jewish wedding, I was trying to do all these things for him, and he said, well, I had no idea what Jewish was, and my idea of Jewish and his idea of Jewish were 2 different Jewish things, and how, if I was having a Jewish wedding, he'd have to talk to the rabbi that I spoke to, he'd have to find out exactly what I was doing, he'd have to find out who was speaking, what was happening at the ceremony, just to know if he could perform his party. And I said, you know what, forget it. I don't want your stupid party anyway, and I hung up the phone. My fiance was there, and he took me in his arms because and I was crying, and he kissed away all of my tears, and he told me that this was the last time that my father would have any power over me, and that my father and his version of religion would have any power over me. And then he said to me, Amy, you know what? We're going to have a beautiful wedding. And more importantly, I'm so excited to spend my life with you. And you know what? Despite it all, he's right. The wedding and its particulars, they don't matter. Next month, I'm going to be walking in Central Park in the gardens. I'm going to be walking up the steps myself, no aisle, no family, no father walking me down. And I'm going to meet my fiance, and we're going to be standing in front of our family and friends together. And really, in the end, after everything, that's the only thing that I want. Thank you. Storyteller, Moran Surf, an Israeli-French neuroscientist. He's a Grand Slam MOTH winner 9 times, and he wants to know, the only thing that's important to know about him is that he is right-handed.
There are a few do's and don'ts on first dates. Like, you should not talk about your ex-girlfriend on a first date. You should not pick your nose. You should not eat garlic before the date if you intend to get... And you should also not take your date to escort your gay virgin friend to a prostitute on the first date. And this is what I did. I was having dinner at my new girlfriend's mother. Now, you might know that, I assume everyone in the audience is Jewish, so you all have Jewish mothers, and you know that the only thing that is more frightening than God to do it is the mom of the girlfriend. And we were having dinner at her place on a Friday night, when suddenly my phone rang. And I looked at the phone, and it was my religious Orthodox friend, Effie, whom I didn't speak with for 3 years now. And this was surprising. On Friday night, a Jewish guy, a religious guy calling me, I had to pick up the phone. And I apologized, and I said, I have to pick up the phone for a second. And I went to the side, and I answered, I said, fine, what do you want now? And then I heard him saying something, and I said, uh-huh, mm-hmm, yes, I understand, uh-huh, trying to conceal the content from my girlfriend and her mom. And then I said, okay, I'll see you in 2 hours. And then I went back to the table, and on the table everyone asked me, what are you scheduled for midnight tonight? And I said, nothing, it's a minor thing, it's going to be okay. And when we left the place, I told my girlfriend, my new girlfriend, that we're going to have a short stop in a place in Tel Aviv, which is called the Sex District of Tel Aviv. It's the equivalent of Las Vegas, if Las Vegas had hummus places instead of fancy restaurants and high-tech employees in the morning. And what we were going to do there is we're going to meet my friend Efraim, who was gay and religious, and refused to accept his being gay, and refused to admit that he is gay, and therefore he never had sex before, and he was 30 at the time. And he was thinking beforehand that he could just kind of lie to a woman into being a straight man. He's going to marry her, they're going to have a family, she would never know. And I always told him when I knew him, when we were friends in school, that it could never work. Like, he could never pretend to be straight if he's gay. It's just not gonna work. But he kept saying, I'm going to pull it. And then we split ways when we finished college. And 3 years later, he called me and said, Moran, I want to try and see if I can sleep with a woman. And I want you to take me to a prostitute for the first time. And that's where we were when I took my girlfriend at the time. So on the way I explained to her that we're going to go meet my friend Efraim. He's virgin, he's 30, he wants to sleep with a woman, he's actually gay. I explained everything quickly, and we get to the place, and when we sit there, park the car, and we arrive at midnight like I scheduled with him, and we sit there, and it's 12, 12:10, 12:30, he doesn't show up. And she's already upset. She didn't expect that to be the end of the evening. So I already have to relax my girlfriend, and I have to call Efraim and see why he's being late. And I call him, and he said he's very nervous because he had to take off his yarmulke and steal his mom's car. And that's when I realized for the first time what he has been going through. So he's religious, and he had to drive on Friday, which he normally doesn't do, had to take his yarmulke off and get to pretty much the place that he's never been to in his life to sleep with a woman for the first time. All of that is on him. So I could accept him being late by 20 minutes. But I still had to kind of project my girlfriend's anxiety. So I said, you have to be here right away. We'll be waiting for you. So he arrived quickly. And I guess he was so nervous from the entire thing that he came so quickly to the place and kind of didn't see the curb. And he hit the curb straight on with his car facing straight, and his chassis landed on the curb, and his wheels, both back and forth, were hanging in the air, so he couldn't do anything. He was just there with a big bang. That's where we were at 12:30. And we got out of the car, and just to kind of give you an idea of how Galit looks compared to all the prostitutes around us. She was wearing like a turtleneck shirt. She looked basically like Julia Roberts looks in the end of Pretty Woman, like a lady. And that's who I was with, next to a lot of women dressed up very slightly. And my friend Ephraim, who's still trying to kind of brake his car and go back, although his tires are both in the air. So he's trying to pull that, and he's very anxious, and everyone is getting around trying to help him. And by the time that that we're there, people are trying to put stones and ropes under the cars so he can somehow get traction and pull back. And all the prostitutes are helping us do that. And while we do that, one of them said right away, you have to call AAA. That's the car service. And you have to call car service because that's the only way you can get the car off. And he could not call AAA because he could not have any record of this event. And I had a motorcycle at the time, so I didn't have a AAA insurance. The only one who had one was Galit. So at some point we had to convince her to call her car service to help save my friend. But when we looked at her, it turned out that what she was doing at the time was actually sharing the entire event with some of the prostitutes. She was telling them that my friend Ephraim is gay, and that's why we're here, and it's not a normal thing. That was the situation. And they started giving us advice. Like one of them said that she knows many gay people who come here often, and it's not a big deal, and what he should do. And they started kind of giving us all kinds of advice on how it's done. And one woman said that she basically knows a family of 3 Orthodox Jews who actually share a family together, and they have problems sleeping in the same bed because one keeps falling off the bed. But I know all kinds of stories that we learned from this woman. And one other woman said we should call AAA right away because she has many clients from AAA, and they take them 3 hours because they spend most of the time with her, so we should call right now. All of that happened at this situation. And at some point after a while we decided that there's no other option. We need to call AAA, the car service, and they indeed said that they're gonna arrive only within 3 hours. So we had 3 hours to kill, and I told the fine, no, so now you know everyone by now. Just pick one and go and spend your 10 minutes doing that, and we can see what we can move on. I said, what do you mean? You wanted to sleep with a prostitute? I said, isn't that what we're here for? I said, no, I didn't mean that. I wanted to sleep with a classy lady, like someone that I get to know. I said, why didn't you choose this place then? Why did you get her here, this particular place? I said, I don't know, you said. I said, so we kind of realized that we were not on the same page. And Galit, surprisingly, was first to realize that there's a solution. And she said, what we should do is go to the equivalent of a Craigslist, it's called encounters, special encounters, where you basically meet women that want to have sex just that night, and they're not prostitutes. So she was already on the computer looking for classy, and by classy I mean classified women. So she was looking there, and we all stood next to my car and started looking around and choosing the women. And I must admit, full disclosure, that I put some of my taste into Effie's woman. I chose a Yemenite woman who has special aerobic skills. And we all chose together, and I called this woman. I said, hi, here's the story, gay, never had sex, want to see if I am gay or not, would you, and she said, sure, come to my place. So the 3 of us arrived at her place, and she was pretty surprised to open the door to her apartment at about 2 a.m., see a blonde girl, her boyfriend, and another third guy entering, trying to explain to her the situation. We went inside, and as we go inside, we start kind of to discuss, and Galit mainly was in charge of explaining to her what's going on, while I talked to Effie about sex. So this was my first encounter in being a parent. I had to kind of have the sex talks with my friend and tell him how it's done, what other process, what he should do, how things happen. And I must say I was pretty good. I aced it because I got reference from the woman afterwards, and he did great. And all this while, Galit is talking to the woman, and the first talk they had was the Galit saying, oh my god, these are lovely earrings, where did you get them? And then they started to say, I got them a discount, I'm 35% there, you should mention it. So while I'm talking to Happy, explaining to him how to have sex, my girlfriend is sharing trade secrets with this woman that we now get to know well. And then after a while we said, okay, enough, we're going to leave, the 2 of us, fine, woman, you should stay together, fine, we're going to be outside in the coffee shop, call us when you're done, we're going to wait for you to take your time, figure out if you're gay or not. And we leave the place and we go down the stairs 3 floors only to hear him screaming, Moran! I don't have condoms! And she pulled in and said, come inside, I have condoms, just get inside, it's like a private building, everyone knows me. And she locked the door. Galit and I went to a coffee shop nearby where I kind of tried to rectify the situation, explain to her that it's not normal, that this happened to me for the first time, it's not something I do commonly. And we spent about an hour there before we got the call from AAA saying that they are there, and then the call from Effie saying that he is done and we can come pick him up. And we picked him up, fixed his car, dropped Galit at home without asking him any question about the situation. And only when we drove home, me and him, waiting for his car to arrive there by the towing truck, I asked him, so what happened? And he said, Moran, God punished me today. He taught me a lesson, but I must say, God, I'm gay. And I only remember this story 2 weeks ago again, when for the first time I saw a patient who arrived at the hospital where I work with his partner, and the partner was a male guy. We have patients commonly arriving at our clinic where we operate on them and we study their brains, but we never had a gay partner arrive because it was not allowed up until a few weeks ago. And when the couple arrived for the first time, they were both in their 60s, and for the first time they could actually share a bed. The spouse was a boy, and he could share a bed with his boyfriend of 30 years. While we anesthetized the patient, I could tell him about my friend's story and end with the saying, God will be with me. I think I'm gay. Thank you.
I know many of you were thinking that you wanted a first date at first with Moran, but then you second thought that once you heard what his first date is like. First of all, I just wanted to end on some happy quotes for marriage. Really happy this time, really happy. A successful marriage requires falling in love many times, always with the same person. And then, in light of the evening, love is moral, even without legal marriage, but marriage is immoral without love. I wanted to thank all our storytellers tonight, Moran Surf, Eyal Solomon, Ophira Eisenberg, Joanne Solomon, and thank the New Israel Fund. Please wait for Bruce to come back on stage and follow up the evening, and don't forget the activism table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Mazal tov on your wedding and so many other weddings. And we hope there's going to be a lot more weddings going on both here and in Israel. And hopefully a lot of those weddings will be either in the box or out of the box. But we have a clip of something we want to show you. And then before you leave, or as you leave, we're going to give you an opportunity to do a little activism. So hold on for a public service announcement. So thank you to all the performers up here who gave us some great stories about thinking out of the box as far as marriage. And I really want to thank Amy once again for not only her story and getting this together, but really bringing together all the different performers. So we really thank you. I also have to give a shout out to my staff, in particular Shira and Nama, who did so much for helping this event. So thank you guys. And as you leave, there's a cafe. I don't think you can stay here, but there is alcohol and food outside. And most importantly, there's two things that you can do as you leave here to help think outside of the frame. One is that you can sign the wedding registry, and it would be nice for Inna and Pavel to know that there were all these people here celebrating their wedding in New York. So you can do that. And also, we invite you to we actually have a frame and some wedding apparatus. And what we're trying to do is actually one of our grantees, which is working on freedom of marriage, is looking to get as many pictures of couples and conventional, unconventional couples, or different types of couples, to get their pictures taken inside the frames and then put onto the website that we have. So we invite you to do a little bit of activism on the way out here and get your picture taken with whoever you want inside the frame that we have that's inside the cafe on your way out. Thank you very much, and learn more about all this stuff at our website, www.naf.org.